Death is part of being mortal. Pain is part of being mortal. The people who love you will eventually not be able to protect you. You can write volumes about the human condition by simply reading the story very, very closely. Mythology was the ancient people's GPS to life. I'll tell you another story, and then of course we'll make this class more scholarly. There is a man who one day desires to have a lion tattooed on his right bicep. Goes to this tattoo artist and says, "I want a lion to be tattooed on my arm." The guy says, "Really?" "Yeah." "Why?" "I love lions. The jungle is life. And the only thing that can survive this jungle is a lion. He's a king. I want to be like that." "Okay." So this tattoo artist grabs the needle, and the moment the needle touches this man's arm, the guy says, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm tattooing the lion on your arm." "But what part of the lion is this?" "Well, it's the head." "The head is far too painful right now. Start with a different part of the lion." Okay. So again, the needle touches the arm and the man says, "Oh, what is it now?" "Well, what part of the lion is this?" "Well, it's the leg." "Oh, it's too painful. Can you start with something like simple?" "Okay." So again, the needle touches the man's arm and, "Ow! What?" "It's the tail." No, it's far too painful." After many, many tries, the artist throws down his instruments and looks at the guy and says, "You're really not made for this. You like the image of lion on your arm in a very abstract, intellectual way. But you don't really have the capacity to actually have the lion be tattooed on your arm." I'm sorry for that. It looks good. Now, in order to make sense of the story, you need to understand a couple of things. Right arm is about justice. Lion is about bravery, that you will ultimately bring justice about in a very physical, tactile, practical way. You will apply it. Lion being tattooed on your arm also indicates an awful trait that human beings have, which is forgetfulness. We forget that life is a beast, that whether you want or not, it will crush you. And you can handle the situation in a couple of ways. You could either throw a temper tantrum every time things don't go your way, or you could be like a lion, stand up, be strong, understand, fight. Not for other people, mainly for yourself for right now. But you see, if you don't have the background knowledge or information, you simply look at the story and you say, "Well, I got a tattoo too." But that's not the meaning of the story. If you want to look at tattoo as an art form, go all the way back to Egypt. All right. Do you have any comments before I... Good. Thomas, what happened?
My bush said that.
Okay, stand. It's okay. For those of you who are interested in yourselves, for those of you who are interested in self-knowledge, as it's called, it's not a bad idea. I'm not sure if we'll get done with it today, but it's not a bad idea to kind of pay attention, not because of this class or not because of me, but because you can understand your needs a little bit better. So when you walk into relationships, you can be clear about your intentions. If that's not too clear, let me give it to you in this way. It may be a little crude, so my apologies beforehand. Imagine you grab a book and you go to a coffee shop to read a few pages. As you're sitting, drinking your coffee and reading a couple of sentences, someone walks in. It happens to be a very attractive person. And all of a sudden you find yourself distracted. You can no longer focus on the book. Your focus is now towards this person. And you're an animal. Instinctually, you become a politician. You say, how can I get myself close to this person? Eventually, you're walking across the room. Intentionally, you trip and your coffee goes all over this person's face and her clothes. And you look at her or him and say, oh my God, I am so sorry. I apologize. I don't live very far from here. Let's go to my place so I can wash your outfit. You guys have never done that? You don't live in the right culture. And so, so what? It's that simple, really.
But it's a cold coffee.
No, it's actually boiling. Boiling coffee. Yeah. See, the thing is, if it's like lukewarm, it's not going to do much. Yeah, if it's like boiling, she's going to scream. You're going to take her home. She's going to be in your bed for the next like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. That creates for a good relationship eventually. Now, so whatever the case may be, you begin to have a conversation with this young person, and he or she shows you some interest, equal amount of attraction towards you and you towards her, and before you know it, you see her every single day. Then you do what birds and bees do, and then 3, 4, 5 weeks later, you realize you no longer really want to be with this person, and you try to con your way out. Oh, my dog in New Jersey died, so I have to go, or I want to go to the mountains and figure out what the meaning of life is. And so this person is abandoned. She doesn't know, or he doesn't know what the hell just happened, but you're out. You've created a good amount of hurt and pain, not because you wanted to, but that's just the way things work. Why? Imagine if instead of being a politician, you just went to this person and said to her or him, I find you enormously attractive. Would you like to be intimate with me? And in this way, you would do what Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, said some years ago. Be honest with people and allow them, because they are rational animals, because they have ability to reason, to think, to reflect, to come to their own conclusion. Tell them, I find you attractive. Let's have sex. What do you think? I'll give you 5 minutes to decide. And then he or she would sit back and either say yes to you or no to you. And then she wouldn't need therapy. You wouldn't need therapy. You wouldn't create love for the wrong reasons. You wouldn't create emotions for the wrong reasons. You wouldn't create ridiculous fantasies and hopes in yourself or another. But that's not what we do. We create wrong stories, we create wrong expectations, and then we crush them, and then we abandon the person. And like Job in the Old Testament, the life is completely ruined. Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Yes, Thomas.
But if you would actually ask a person,
That would probably beat you up, yes. Now, well, today, yes.
okay,
Yes. But that's not the point. Allahu Akbar.
and that's the point.
You just want to harass me. That's what you want to do, Thomas. Yes.
Talk more about conflict.
Probably not right now, but we will. Yeah. Have a good time. An American psychologist by the name of Abraham Maslow, I think he was born in New York or New Jersey, only child. He was somewhat of a recluse, depressed. He was an introvert. He loved Sigmund Freud. He should have probably been on medication, but that wasn't the case for him. So I'm going to borrow from some of his ideas and, if I can, elaborate on some of them. This is you. What do you need to survive? No. Yes, but that's at a later stage. What you need to survive initially is food, water, air. But for you to be able to use these three components properly, what you need is to be healthy. If you come to this class and your belly has no food in it, Immanuel Kant has zero meaning. He has zero value. You need food. Know what you need, so you don't ask ridiculous questions. If you want to use your brain, if you want to use your time well, make sure you keep your physical body healthy. Because if you don't, your body will always get in the way of you achieving the things you want to achieve. If you enjoy reading books, don't play too much video games that could hurt your vision. If you enjoy reading books, don't consume alcohol too much, because then you'll get migraine headaches and you'll need days to recover. So remember, you may have food, water, and air, but if you have an unhealthy physical body, none of this stuff is going to be usable. You don't need the philosophy of Socrates. You need the philosophy of what makes a human body function well. You don't need to come to Laney. You need to go to Kaiser.
Kaiser money?
Okay? Now, once you have food, water, and shelter, and keep in mind, these, for our ancestors who lived in the Paleolithic tradition Stone Age era, very, very difficult to come by. You're a tiny, little, pathetic worm in a jungle filled with vicious, humongous animals. You need to learn how to hunt. I'm a vegetarian, does not exist. I love animals, does not exist. I want to become a vet, that does not exist. You don't have that privilege just yet. So when you go back 5, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 years ago, what you find is people don't sit home thinking about the meaning of life, whether or not God exists. How can I get food? Where can I get water? About 30 or some years ago, I went to this place called Rancho Cucamonga in Southern California. There was a college there named Chaffey College. I taught there for one summer. There is Chaffey College, and it's right in the middle, surrounded by mountains and hills. The city was filled with smog, smoke. The mountains and the hills would not allow the smog to go away. Sometimes you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. So you need to understand how important these three components are. And just in case one or the other, all three are not available, your entire life revolves around food, water, and air. Once you have secured food, water, and air, what you need is this thing called shelter. We had caves, then we made straw huts, and eventually we have these. So for those of you in this class who have no home to go to, there is no physical space that can house your physical body, don't ask me about Immanuel Kant. Don't ask me about Socrates. In fact, don't ask anyone. Go to people who can provide you a place to live that's warm. They'll give you a bed and a blanket. That's what you need. Okay? So for those of you in this class who don't have food, get a job if you can. Make money and buy yourself food so you can move to this space. Once you graduate from the first stage, now you can go to the first stage, second stage. Now you have shelter. Some of you in this class have shelter. Your parents were kind enough to give you a room. Maybe you have a job and you're able to get yourself a studio. After work, you go home, you open the door to your place, and you look around. There is no one there. You're all alone. Shelter by itself is not enough. You need this thing called love that's initially comes with your parents. What's the use of having food without shelter? What's the use of having food and having shelter if you're all alone, depressed? Initially, your shelter houses two very, very, very important people. Your mom and your dad. The moment you're born, you scream. You need to see the physical presence of your father as well. This is your foundation. You stand on this, and you will stand on this for the rest of your life. They become your GPS about relationships, about marriage, about love, about faith, about trust, about communication, about devotion, responsibility. If you don't see those things, you're missing some very, very important components inside you. Books will never give them to you. You will have to learn the hard way. And by hard way, I mean the following. You will have to get into 20, 30, 50,000 different relationships until you learn what trust is, because it wasn't given to you. This is the most basic components that kids need during the formative years. 0 to about 10 maybe. Someone like Freud would say about 6, let's just say 10. We have invented language to communicate. And we want to communicate because life gives us emotions, gives us experience. We feel things. And sometimes the feelings are just too much. We want to share them with others. And if you have parents, you can rest in them by sharing things with them. For those of you in this class, once in a while you happen to find yourself in a heavy mood, what do? You pick up your phone and you call a friend. And you just talk to them endlessly. And then you say, oh, thank you for listening to me. I'll see you tomorrow. And it's like this weight is no longer on your shoulders. Yeah. You sure? Now, if your question was, what if you don't have one of these? Or what if you have neither? What do you do then? Or what happens if you have both, but they both suck as human beings? Those are questions we can get to, like, on a different day. Now, this is your first community. And like every community, there is a history in it. There are stories in it. What?
Members. They are members.
Members, that's right. When you live with people, especially at a young age, your parents, you will learn the art of negotiation, compromise, that not everything is about you. We have a word in Persian. It is qayyim. If I was to put this in very simple language, it would mean this. Go to Home Depot, buy yourself a 1-gallon redwood. Dig the ground and just put it in there. The problem with a 1-gallon redwood is that if you don't anchor it well, once the wind blows, the redwood will be uprooted. So what do? This is the redwood. It's a baby redwood. It's infant. You put one stick here, you tie here and you tie here. You remove freedom from the redwood. 10 years later, you remove this. Now the redwood can stand on its own, unless there's a tornado of sorts. Okay? What is it that parents give children? They give them stories. They give them GPS. Now, given the fact that today divorce is about 60%, given the fact that technology has allowed children from a very young age to become addicted to cell phones, to technology, you don't even need to have abusive parents anymore. Technology harasses you from the age 2, where even if you have good parents, we don't want to be around them because you want to play video games or you want to watch TV. Your ability to be communal disappears. This is where we are. There is no need for us to go any higher. My experience in the classroom for the past 30 years is there is a good amount of people who just suffer from this. And so whatever philosophy we talk about in this class will deal about this. And various definitions of love. And what happens when you don't have this? You have no choice but to suffer loneliness. And what happens when you're lonely? You have no choice but to suffer grief. And what happens when loneliness and grief lives inside you for a long time? You're depressed. And what happens when depression becomes your faithful companion? You're now chronically depressed. And when you're chronically depressed, you have to go visit this German poet. Is he German? Novalis? Maybe he was, I don't know, Indian. Maybe. Philosophy is about homesickness, he once argued. Maybe you find your home by getting some food because you haven't had food for a while. Maybe you find your home by actually having a bed and some blankets and a shelter that keeps your flesh warm. Maybe your home is not Socrates. Maybe your home is simply learning how to live with chronic depression in a very mature way, without getting crushed every single day. Now, the problem with having a dysfunctional third stage is that on the inside, you're always in the presence of moods. You're changing every 10 minutes, which means there is no stability to you. Which means that any human being who would want to invest inside you emotionally, you would be the wrong platform. Not only will you mess yourself up, you will mess them up as well. Remember, Socrates lived 2,500 years ago. No technology, no internet. Prostitution took a different shape and form. Drugs took a different shape and form. I am not quite sure what Socrates or even Jesus Christ, if they were to walk the streets, what they would do to 21st century people and how they would communicate with them. One of the most important things that take place here is you seek the approval of your parents. Why is this important? Because when you go into the job force, you will need to know how to seek the approval of your boss. Here, your parents give you meaning. Around the age 18 or 19, when you go into society, you need social approval. Because you no longer care about how your dad looks at you or defines you. You no longer care about how your mom looks at you or defines you. You want society now to give you value. You raise your hand in this class and you ask a question. If I make fun of you and your question, your value goes down and you get embarrassed in this class. You need to understand that you and I belong to this powerful system called society. And if you've turned into a beast down here, society will chew you and spit you out. So remember, at different stages, your needs change. We'll talk some more when we get together again on hopefully Thursday. One thing, try not to think too much about the conversation we have in this class. You're here for 3 units and a grade. I'll give them to you. You're not really here to learn. As long as we're clear about that, we'll be fine. Do you have any questions or comments, Thomas?
Will the rapid change of goods fade out when you get older? You don't address that. You just settle. You just learn how you handle your rapid change.
Yeah. We are the sort of animals that adjust. It's something that Charles Darwin talked about. And I think for the most part, he was right. It doesn't matter what your condition is. Eventually, you'll get used to it. Initially, it'll be difficult, but then you adjust.
That's good to know.
Yeah, you're like Rambo.
It's exhausting. I've done it almost every 10 minutes.
Yeah, but the thing you need to remember is you're 18. I'm sorry?
23 now.
But you're 18 going on 23. Well, you're really 2. But the point is, you're young enough to make the proper changes, and by the time you're 30, you can have your life put back together. If, on the other hand, you're going to rest on the assumption that, yeah, I'm a crappy human being, I hate being crappy, but I think by the time I'm 40, I'll just learn how to live with all the crap that lives inside me. You don't need to do that. You know, because if you're filled with crap at the age of 40, no one will want to be around you unless people who smell like you. And you like good smelling people around you, no? Yeah. before you leave, let me just share with you this one last story and then we'll go. When I was living in Davis, we had no money, zero money. I had one pair of socks only, just one. And we didn't have money to wash our clothes. So what I would do, I would wear the same sock over and over and over again. And eventually they would smell. So I would go into my aunt's room, grab her bottle of perfume and just spray the sock. It would make it worse.
Yeah.
And eventually my teacher got me a pair of socks. But then I had underwear issues. And then she told me to go to her house so she could change my... It's fun. Okay, so listen, have a good day. See you next week. Thursday. You too, thank you.